I completely forgot that The Shield debuted at Survivor Series along with The Undertaker, along with Sting, certainly not in the same year, but this is my Survivor Series best matches and moments. You tell me video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. Please leave a like on this video and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Your support has been amazing so far. I'm trying to accept Denise Salcedo's video a day challenge for December. We're going to go for it. We're going to see what we can do. Some of them might be like YouTube shorts. Some of them might be live streams, but we're going to try and do something for every day of December. I'm going to try and match Denise Salcedo's freak. That's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do. But starting off December with this after Survivor Series last night, I'm so excited to get into this. You guys told me some of the best matches and moments of Survivor Series. I'm going to recap some of the favorites right now, but a lot of people responded right away with this legend, the gobbledygooker. Like, what a Survivor Series legend. I love it so much. There was no better way to start off after Thanksgiving weekend than with this guy. So excited to be kicking it off with this dude. I mean, this is where he was born. This is where he was raised. He took on many forms. He was a surprise in many matches, even Divas matches at one point, I think. So I love this guy. He's such a WWE superstar. The look of him, I feel like he's hatching from what looks like more of a dinosaur egg, and what a moment. Of all the like silly things that you think about in wrestling this time of year, I feel like he's at the top of the list for sure. What a legend. So by far the most responses that I got for a Survivor Series overall was 92. And there's something so special about the years of 92 and 93 in wrestling in general, because I think Royal Rumble 1992 is probably regarded as the best Royal Rumble by a lot of people. Nobody more than my friend Kevin at the Shining Wizards Network for sure. That's his comfort match. That is like the wrestling match that's like his equivalent to like macaroni and cheese or soup when you're sick. 92 is what he's like, I'm gonna watch Royal Rumble 92 and go to bed kind of thing. But you might be wondering, like, why this of all the matches on Survivor Series 92? It's a classic pay-per-view. Like, there's so much more on there. You had like the Ultimate Maniacs, right, versus Ric Flair and Razor Ramon. Okay, why did you use this graphic to kick us off? And if you know my love of tag team wrestling, you know that I ironically love Techno Team 2000. And I unironically feel like High Energy is so underrated. I love that tag team. Anytime I go back and watch, the disrespect to Frankie the McCaw not being on this graphic, though, is really upsetting if we're being so for real about it. But a classic. 1992 and 93, like, what years for wrestling. Great Survivor Series through and through. We're gonna couple times it sort of reappears on this video in different ways. This moment was so important to me as a fan. This is CM Punk getting introduced by Howard Finkel at Survivor Series. I'm so glad that this was sent in, because this one is something that meant a lot to me, and that I had just gotten into wrestling when CM Punk kind of first started to rise. I fell so in love with the Straight Edge Society stuff, and then of course with the pipe bomb and that whole run after the Best in the World run, like really, really great stuff. But something that is, I think, underrated about the pipe bomb and that CM Punk run is, like, I didn't know really about New Japan Pro Wrestling. I didn't know about Ring of Honor, but when he mentioned them, I was like, I got to dig into a little bit of the history around this stuff. And Howard Finkel being such like a nostalgic pull and a history, an important part of wrestling history. I loved that they pulled out all the stops for this in Survivor Series. Also, shout out to the H2O hoodie on this. I love the band H2O. They're fantastic. Always wearing band gear, always supporting the punk rock scene in CM Punk fashion, and especially in this era, it was just like every week there was a new band t-shirt or hoodie, I feel like. So really, really special moment, something that I love that Punk brought back there. And here we have the second most requested overall pay-per-view from Survivor Series that people just love to go back and watch, which was 1989. I just love this because I feel like if you want just the most pro wrestling thing to go show someone, like, this picture's got to be up there. Like, describe pro wrestling with no words in a picture. Like, look at this. Look at this collection of guys. Like, my sister doesn't watch wrestling. This is one of those things that I would show her without context and just be like, pro wrestling, man, look at this. Look at this. Especially, look at the far right. My God, the hair, the outfit, the guitar, just fantastic. But 92 and 89 were the most, like, identified as the best Survivor Series that people love to go back and watch when I threw this question out there. So I chose this photo to be representative of 1989 Survivor Series. We've got back-to-back Bret Hart moments. I feel like he's so synonymous with Survivor Series, and we're going to talk about the first Survivor Series without him with 1998 and Deadly Games in a minute here, but Bret versus Diesel was one of the things that got sent in the most, and then, of course, Bret versus Austin. I absolutely adore these matches. Bret being such a Survivor Series staple. It really kind of shapes the event when you go back and watch old Survivor Series. You've got, like, Bret's just leading the way in so many of those, whether the traditional Survivor Series matches or main events, but these two matches came up a lot from you guys. The Sting debut in WWE. Now, I think most people would say that his run didn't go the way that they wanted it to. The booking wasn't really there to support it. And, of course, the unfortunate injury that came in that Seth Rollins match. It feels like these really brutal injuries always come on the simplest moves that people have done 1,000 times. But this was such a special moment in the context of Survivor Series, one that I completely forgot about. I didn't remember that it was a Survivor Series debut, but this was such an important moment. The initial reception for Sting was so incredible. Glad he got that AEW run so he could end it on its own terms, but, like, this was, in a vacuum, something that was an incredible, never thought we were going to see it type of moment. So debuts at Survivor Series with some really, really special performers is a thing that got sent in a lot. This, I feel like, as far as Survivor Series stuff that outkicked its coverage, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the builds were not super great going into it, but the performers were so incredible, and this was like brand supremacy that clicked, that worked. This wasn't just different t-shirt. Like, this felt like it had some real juice to it, with NXT being kind of the underdog brands, but all over this pay-per-view, there was really, really great three brands duking it out for supremacy. I absolutely adored it. Undertaker debuting at Survivor Series. This picture is so fun because we see so many different iterations of the dead man, and this just feels like that suit is enormous. What is this tie? What is happening? Like, this version of the Undertaker made such an impact, but they really honed in on his look a little bit later, thank goodness, because this looks like a mess. But what's so fun is the things that are iconic about him you still do see in this picture. Not boxed out shoulder pad suit, but the stare, right? The dead man eyes, the hat, like the two things that you probably most associate with the Undertaker. This isn't like a trench coat like I think we came to know him for, but like the oversized coat. The aura of him is still so much a part of his debut. I'm American Badass Taker, like, if I'm picking my favorite version of the guy, but for such a legend to start at Survivor Series, this moment was a big one. The Deadly Games, presented by Crunch Candy Bars, which I didn't know, but I'm pretty, I don't really go back and watch a lot of Attitude Era stuff, but this is a great one. This is a great shout because this is the first Survivor Series without Bret Hart. This is the first Survivor Series pay-per-view to buck the kind of traditional Survivor Series format, which I think is interesting. And what was so special about this was I don't go back like I said, and watch a lot of Attitude Era stuff, I find it to be very dated. But I need to go back and watch this one properly because I remember the main event and I can contextualize it and remember the significance with the McMahons and everything. But Rock versus Mankind getting kind of screwed over in the finals. But this tournament did a really good job of the things that you want wrestling tournaments to do, of interweaving stories that were pre-existing into this from what everybody had kind of said. I don't remember the stories from this era very well, but everybody had said, like, as far as wrestling tournaments go, this was capitalizing on storytelling that was already there. So I definitely have to go back and watch this pay-per-view and catch up on the stuff that was around it. But bucking that traditional Survivor Series format was a big piece of this. The umbrella story with the McMahons kind of coming into play, but not overshadowing the whole event. And look at the names in these semifinals and the finals. Mankind and Stone Cold. You had the McMahons and the Stone Cold rivalry kind of continuing with all of this. Undertaker versus The Rock, and then, of course, your finals. What a fantastic job this pay-per-view did of kind of flipping over that new era, and it made sure that we weren't a slave to a certain format because of the type of pay-per-view it was, right? Like, we ran into that so much of, we have to have a Hell in a Cell match, whether it feels like it's warranted or not, because we have a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Like, this played into that flexibility. And speaking of formats, we have the War Games formats right here. Absolutely adore that War Games is something that got brought over into WWE. I would say we've gone maybe a little too far with it. Like, I didn't feel like last night's pay-per-view warranted a War Games match for the women's side of things. I think that would have actually been supported better by a traditional Survivor Series match. But bringing War Games into the fold, and of course, War Games with William Regal getting to be announced, the most important aspect of it all, really. But the double ring is such a fun piece of this. Even yesterday, Shinsuke Nakamura used that steel plate in the middle that holds the ring together to his advantage in his match, to be underhand but not really, really cheat. So adding a second ring being such an X factor, not only for the matches of both teams, but when other matches call into play the second ring, I think that's one of the most exciting parts about it. But it was just nice to see this show up a few years ago, and such a fun way to bring it in. Brock versus Danielson. This was one that got thrown our way too. This is just such a classic, like, huge dominant heel versus little baby face underdog. Like, there are some archetypes that just work. And if you let them be simple enough and you let the wrestling tell the story, it's one of the best ones that you can have. Everybody is rooting for the little guy against the big vicious guy. So this was sent in a lot as one of people's favorites. And my gosh, if I do a video like this that doesn't include Bryan Danielson, I'll be shocked, because if I did a best strat matches, he would probably have 2 of them. Like, there are so many matches where you look through wrestling history and Bryan Danielson's name is in that best of conversation for match types, especially, but even just things like this, classic pay-per-view matches like this one that you guys sent our way. Stone Cold versus Bischoff's team. Now, I'll be super, super honest. I have not watched this. Like, I'm not familiar, but this did get sent in a couple times. And even just seeing who's on each team, I'm like, I definitely do have to go back and watch this. For the photos alone, like, you have your classic Stone Cold photo on the side, but Eric Bischoff with the emo hair, his hands positioned the way they are, just fantastic. Like, just captures a period of time so much. Presented by Xbox, so there you go. But this is one I definitely have to go check out. But this got sent in a couple times, and a lot of people had said, "Oh, that's a good sleeper." So I don't think this is necessarily at the top of those conversations, but like, the hidden gems in all of these is kind of the fun part for me. And capping off with the Shield debut, my goodness, what have these guys ever done for wrestling, right? 3 of the most valuable people in wrestling today, one of the best angles ever done in pro wrestling. this was such an important thing to the product at the time because it was just immediately like this force of heels that showed up. It's so interesting. It's so interesting to look at the contributions that they made as a unit and individually, and even in the tag team picture a little bit here. So the Shield debut was so special because it was so unanticipated, as a good debut is, but they had been cooking on NXT, right? So like you had the parts that were there, and to call them up to the main roster in this way, I think is so awesome. So the Shield debut, such a cool thing as a moment on Survivor Series. And now years later, when you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, these are truly three of the most valuable people in wrestling today. And especially over the past 5 years or so, Seth Rollins' value shows up so often in the ways that he can make everything feel important, the ways that he can give you any type of character you need, like silly heel, badass heel, underdog babyface, cool babyface. Like he can really, really do it all with his versatility. Mox is just one of the most believable promos, and he's one of those guys looking at him, you just know what type of wrestler he is, which is something I always appreciate as a fan. And what do we say about Roman Reigns, right? They tried to force him as a babyface for so many years. Turns out all he needed to be was the most badass heel in wrestling for a while and go away for a little bit. And he comes over and he's the top babyface from a crowd reaction standpoint. We'll see. We'll see where the stories are going. But what an important triumvirate of dudes. What an important legacy that all three of these guys have contributed to pro wrestling. And even when you see guys like Moxley, who you're like, he probably wasn't ever truly ripe for the WWE presentation style, knowing the way that he likes to wrestle. But man, did Dean Ambrose do a lot for that brand and for WWE, truly. And honestly, not a bad action star in 12 rounds. Alex Pulaski and I reviewed that on Fightful Select. So could have gone the way of being a B-movie action star if he wanted to, truly. So that is it for our Survivor Series recap. Thank you so much for sending in your suggestions. These are fun and special for me to do. I like that there's some interactivity that is a jumping off point for these videos. So if you want to see more of them, please leave a thumbs up below. Please leave a comment of your favorite Survivor Series moments and matches included in this video, or tell me what I missed. I would love for you guys to point out things that are missing from here, but very fun to go look at Survivor Series 92 as a whole, and also the debuts, and also Deadly Games, which bucked the format. Like a lot of really cool wrestling history baked into Survivor Series. So thank you so much for watching. We are going to try and do a video a day. Tomorrow, we're going to look at a bizarro booking situation, which is kicking off a new series, which is what if this performer or act showed up in this promotion? How would you guys book it? In celebration of the New Day showing up on Raw, the anniversary of that, we are going to do what would happen if the New Day showed up in AEW. How would you book it? So that's tomorrow's video. Please subscribe if you're interested in what I'm doing over here. And let me know. Let me know what you thought in this video and your thoughts on matches and moments in Survivor Series. Have a wonderful kickoff to December here. I can't believe we're closing in on the end of the year already. Appreciate your support so much. Have a great and wonderful December and holiday season.